Dan Orlovsky from ESPN's NFL Live on his idea for the Browns building out their quarterback room.
They don't have to in the draft, but I do know this. There's $63 million in the red for next year's cap. So you're not replacing the quarterback position with something expensive. You have to find it in a cheap manner. The only two assets that are worth a lot that the Cleveland Browns have are the number 2 pick and Myles Garrett. And I entertain the idea, and I think they will at some point have to entertain calling the Minnesota Vikings, maybe if they don't like somebody in the draft, and saying, are you willing to part with J.J. McCarthy because he's cheap? It depends on if they liked him coming out of college last year, and having a conversation around Myles Garrett and or that number 2 draft pick.
Scott, a couple of things. The Browns also rolled $42 million, almost $42 million from the cap savings last year into this year. So that's 61. It's not really 61 that they're over. The other thing is, Andrew Berry pretty much told you, we're not trading Myles Garrett. We'll get into the quarterback room next segment because I know you wrote an article. And I know you were asked, J.J. McCarthy. I'm intrigued by it. It depends on how you have him rated relative to Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, if the Browns liked him last year and thought he was a top 15 pick in the draft or whatever, right? Worthy of a high pick in the first round of the draft. And you have him graded higher compared to those two guys that you mentioned and everyone else in that quarterback, the 2025 quarterback class, then I would do that. I would see what Minnesota wanted. Now, I think the ideal situation is you trade back, and one of my mailbag people suggested this. You trade back from 2, so you get a couple more draft pick assets, and then trade whatever that number is, 7 or 10 or 12, and trade that for McCarthy. That wouldn't feel as maybe startling as having to trade the number 2 pick for someone. But either way, I would be willing to make that trade if I knew that Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry really liked J.J. McCarthy. I would do that in a heartbeat. Now, I don't think they're trading Myles Garrett, so it would be more to me about trading that draft pick, that number 2 pick asset. And I think that's where you get your quarterback. So whether or not it's Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders or J.J. McCarthy, sure, you miss a year of that rookie contract. I don't care. I would certainly make that move if I were the Browns, and I thought McCarthy would be healthy because he's coming off, knee surgery. But yeah, I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Yep, and it'll be interesting to see how the Vikings read that lay of the land. They know they've won 14-3 or whatever they are with Sam Darnold as their starting quarterback. So they could certainly choose Darnold and then try to trade back and get the asset from McCarthy.